There are moments in film history that don't just make people talk, they make the entire world stop. One of those moments happened in 1971, in a small black and white film that looked simple on the surface, but carried an emotional weight that would change Hollywood forever. It wasn't a blockbuster filled with explosions or special effects. It was a quiet, aching story about loneliness, small-town dreams, and the things people hide behind polite smiles. But beneath that stillness was a storm, one that would erupt around a single scene and a single actress. This is the story of the Last Picture Show, and how one haunting moment turned Cybill Shepherd from a newcomer into the center of one of Hollywood's biggest controversies. The film takes us back to a fading Texas town in the early 1950s, a place where nothing ever really happens, where dreams dry up under the sun, and where the local movie theater is the only escape from the boredom of real life. Directed by Peter Bogdanovich and based on Larry McMurtry's deeply personal novel, the film was like a photograph of a dying America, beautiful, sad, and painfully honest. It was a story about youth, love, and the quiet desperation of people stuck in a town that time had forgotten. But behind the poetic images and quiet conversations, another story was unfolding. One not written in the script. It was the story of how a young, inexperienced actress became the focus of a creative gamble that would change not only her life, but also the ethics of Hollywood filmmaking. Peter Bogdanovich was one of the new mavericks of the 1970s, a generation of filmmakers who wanted to tear down the old rules. He was obsessive about his craft, a student of classic cinema, and determined to make a film that felt as real and unvarnished as life itself. He insisted on shooting The Last Picture Show in black and white, a daring choice at the time, to strip away the glamour and let the emotions speak for themselves. But his commitment to authenticity would soon test the boundaries of art and morality. Enter Cybill Shepherd. At the time, she wasn't an actress at all. She was a model, barely in her 20s, whose beauty had already graced magazine covers. Bogdanovich spotted her photograph and saw something no one else did. A mix of innocence and danger that perfectly fit the character of J.C. Farrow, the alluring, restless girl who drives much of the film's emotional chaos. He cast her instantly. And that decision would define his career and hers. Filming began in Archer City, Texas, far away from the Hollywood spotlight. The production felt intimate, almost like a family. The cast included young stars-to-be like Jeff Bridges, Timothy Bottoms, and Randy Quaid, alongside seasoned performers like Ben Johnson and Cloris Leachman. Bogdanovich pushed everyone to their limits, searching for raw, unscripted emotion in every take. But when it came to Cybill Shepherd, he demanded more than emotion. He demanded vulnerability. And that's where the trouble began. In one of the most talked-about scenes, the teenage characters attend a pool party, a moment of reckless innocence that turns unexpectedly raw. In the scene, J.C., played by Shepherd, strips and dives into the pool as the others watch, a symbolic act of freedom, loneliness, and awakening. On paper, it was art, a moment of self-liberation and youthful confusion. But on set, it was something far more complicated. Shepherd was nervous. She wasn't an experienced actress used to intimate scenes. She had reservations, but the pressure was enormous. Bogdanovich, chasing the emotional truth of the moment, insisted on realism. In a time before intimacy coordinators or protective contracts, that insistence left Shepherd exposed, literally and emotionally, in ways that she hadn't anticipated. Still, she went through with it. When the cameras rolled, a moment was captured that would live in cinematic history. both mesmerizing and unsettling. When the last picture show was released, critics were stunned. It was hailed as a masterpiece, raw, human, and heartbreakingly beautiful. The film earned 8 Academy Award nominations and 2 wins. Audiences were captivated by its honesty, but not everyone was applauding. Beneath the praise came a tidal wave of controversy. Some called the film exploitative. Others said Bogdanovich had gone too far in his pursuit of realism. And at the center of it all was Cybill Shepherd, a young woman suddenly thrust into a spotlight she never asked for. The very scene that made the movie unforgettable also made her the target of moral outrage and invasive curiosity. Viewers and journalists fixated not on her performance, but on her body. The film was banned or censored in several regions, and debates erupted about decency and artistic freedom. For Shepherd, the success of the film came with an unbearable price. She became the face of a scandal that blurred the lines between performance and privacy. Then came the breaking point, a betrayal that would push the controversy into overdrive. Without Shepherd's consent, Playboy magazine published still photographs from the pool scene, presenting them as titillating images rather than moments from a serious film. The photos were not promotional material. They were stolen from the movie, ripped from their artistic context, and used for profit. Shepherd was horrified. The publication turned her artistic vulnerability into a spectacle, stripping away any notion of consent or respect. Outrage followed, and, for once, Hollywood took notice. Legal challenges arose, and the Screen Actors Guild, now aware of the deep ethical void exposed by this scandal, began drafting new rules to protect performers. From that point on, actors could no longer be filmed in intimate or nude scenes without written consent, and filmmakers had to respect new boundaries. What happened to Cybill Shepherd became more than a scandal. It became a turning point. Over time, the noise faded. Bogdanovich went on to direct more acclaimed films, though his relationship with Shepherd, both personal and professional, remained under constant scrutiny. Shepherd herself reinvented her career, transitioning from the objectified young actress of the 1970s into a strong, confident woman who commanded respect on television and stage. She spoke openly about her experiences, and in doing so, reclaimed her story from those who had tried to define her by a single moment. And what about the film? Decades later, the Last Picture Show stands as one of the greatest achievements of American cinema, preserved in the Library of Congress and studied in universities for its stark beauty and emotional realism. Its power lies not just in its portrayal of small-town decay, but in the very tension that made it controversial. The pool scene, once condemned, is now recognized for what it truly was, a haunting reflection of vulnerability, both within the story and behind the camera. But beyond the awards and the legacy, there's a deeper truth here, one about art, power, and the cost of greatness. Bogdanovich's pursuit of authenticity gave the world a masterpiece, but it also revealed the imbalance of control that often hides behind the word art. For Shepherd, the experience was both a wound and a rebirth, a painful initiation into an industry that demanded everything and gave little in return. In the end, The Last Picture Show isn't just a movie about a dying town. It's a story about loss, awakening, and the blurry line between truth and exploitation. The pool scene remains one of cinema's most unforgettable moments, not because of what it showed, but because of what it exposed. The price artists sometimes pay when their humanity becomes part of the performance. More than 50 years later, the echoes of that moment still linger. Every time a filmmaker talks about consent on set, every time an actor stands up for creative boundaries, part of that conversation traces back to Cybill Shepherd and that fateful day by the pool. What began as a quiet coming-of-age film became a battle cry for dignity in the name of art. And perhaps that's the ultimate legacy of the Last Picture Show. It reminded Hollywood and the world that even the most beautiful picture can hide a painful truth behind the lens.